Hi, welcome back. I'm Laura, and this is the Crafty Chaos podcast. And you can follow me on Instagram at SnarkCraft or on Ravelry as Rora. Uh, I got to go to the Seattle Flock Fiber Festival, and I live in the area, so I got to go to both days with no problem. Um, on the first day, I went with my daughter, and I wore my Rubenia top in out of knitting for olive pure silk, and I was really excited that I finished it in time, and I was able to wear it and be super comfortable. I had a cute linen black dress underneath, and I was super comfortable the whole time. Um, we both my daughter and I don't love really big crowds, and so we planned it so that we would get there a little bit after the immediate rush of first day opening time. Um, we ended up getting there around 11:30, and there was no line for entry for getting your wristband or anything. When we got upstairs, it was crowded, but you could still move around and not get too stressed out. Um, when you first go in, you see the winding booth. That was a fantastic idea. I don't remember if they had that last year or not, but it was a fundraiser by the Makers of Color Collective. Um, and you so like if especially if you're out of town, if you bought something and you wanted to cast on to it right away, you could go up there and have it wound for you at that moment, which was super cool. There was also the merch booth a little bit to the left, to the right of that, and it had a pretty steady line. And some food, which was a big improvement over last year. They had food last year, but they didn't have a lot of spaces to sit and hang out and just socialize, which is, I think, one of the complaints that people had last year. And so they did a good job with listening and adjusting that. Uh, so because we got there a little bit later, we I made the I decided that I really wanted to just like do my initial walk through the aisles and just see all the things that were there, because like mentally I knew a lot of the places that were going to be there, and I had my top 3 list of places I absolutely wanted to go to and purchase from. And so I we started walking down the aisles, and it was super crowded. Some of the booths were just so crowded that I decided I was going to go back to them later. I wasn't going to try and move around. I'm a larger person. I had bags with me. I'm recording things. Like that was too many factors for me to not cause unintentional chaos in these booths. Here's some footage of that, largely people's backs and a lot of knitted garments. masking had ended. And so we went back, and that's when I bought the Red Stag fibers. The next booth I went to was M to the third. And my only regret is that I didn't get some of her DK also, because there was a gorgeous lavender color, but I had already bought the DK weight pattern that I had in my book that would have worked for that yarn. So I decided not to get it, and I was like, okay, well, if I go home tonight and I find a pattern that calls for it, then I can always get it tomorrow. I got distracted and I didn't get it, which is fine. My bank account is very happy about that fact. So, but what I did get, uh, one of my plans was to get mini skeins from different dyers, so that way I could still get a lot of different variety in dyers, but not have to find like sweaters quantity or have single skeins of stuff that I may or may not use in the future just laying around. So I got two of her mini skeins. I got some stickers, and I got 3 skeins of yarn. This was my first unintentional purchase. It is her Cori fingering weight yarn, and it's a non-superwash Coriadel, and it was basically the end of the pot dye bath where it's not repeatable. It was whatever she had left in the dye pots to not be wasteful. She gets a skein of yarn and just does whatever's left over, and this is what came out, and it was flipping gorgeous, and I loved it. And I really wanted to use this to make, oh, what was it? I wanted to use this to make a different top, but she only had one skein, and that is not enough for a top for me. So I'll have to decide what I make with this. At first I was thinking socks, but there's no nylon content, and being a non-superwash, I think that they would get a little saggy a little quickly. So I'll have to figure something out. Maybe a hat or some fingerless mitts. Fingerless mitts would be really pretty in this. Um, However, I did buy planned yarn, and this is her Wondrous sock base, and it's 75% superwash BFL and 25% nylon in the colorway Hyacinth. And let me see, I made sure to write down in my notebook what I was getting the different yarns for, so that I wouldn't accidentally double buy things. And this is going to be, where's the name of it? The Rib Lace Raglan from James Watts. I technically had already gotten yarn for that pattern, but it's the Knitting for Olive cotton merino, and when I knit it up, it knits up a lot finer than what the yardage calls for. And so I've decided I'm going to use that to make a different top. I have plenty of yardage for it, so I'm using that towards a pattern that's more of a lace weight gauge, which has worked better with the other cotton merino pattern that I've been knitting with it. And this is going to be the rib lace cardigan, or not cardigan, rib lace top. I saw, I can't remember her name, but her account is Breathing Yarn on YouTube, and she made a rib lace cardigan. Oh my gosh, I keep saying cardigan. Rib lace rib lace raglan, and it's gorgeous, and it is going to be a good, fun layering piece for the wintertime here. So really excited, really love this color. And that was my into the third purchase. Next, I went to Plies and Hellhounds. And first of all, Gabby is much taller than I expected. Don't know why I didn't expect her to be that tall, but she was. And so nice and so lovely. And I lost my mind a little bit because I've been watching her for a really long time. And she's one of those people. Her account is one of those accounts where immediately when it releases, I want to watch it and I make sure not to miss any of them. And so I was heavily influenced by her. And I got two two tops worth of yarn from her. I got I can't Taresk Tarske in the Folklore Club. And I believe the colorway is Lucent, and it's 70% superwash BFL, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere. And like these colors are just so gorgeous. I am definitely leaning into my fall color palette and away from the neon colors so much. I'm really excited about that. That's for the Salty Air Tea. I don't remember if I said the pattern, by Samantha Guerin. And then I was influenced a second time, and I got Painted All My Nights in her Selkie base, and it is 85% non-superwash merino, 15% silk. And this is going to be a seagrass tank. And it's just, I get the glare from the window above me. It's going to be so pretty. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited that I'm finally filming it so I can wind this up and start knitting on it. The only other purchase I made that first day was actually for my daughter. My daughter and I were walking around, and we walked by Lamb and Kid, and I've actually never been to their shop because it requires a ferry boat to get there. I was just curious at like what they were carrying. And so we were walking by, and this beautiful neon orange caught both of our eyes. And my daughter doesn't ask for a lot of things. And I recently purchased a circular sock machine. And my daughter really, really likes knit socks. And so she asked if I could make her a pair of knee-high socks because those are her favorite, and the store-bought ones don't fit her as well as she'd like. And so I said, okay. And so I got two skeins for knee-high socks, and she also asked for a pair of fingerless mitts. So she's going to be very neon, very GG orange, because the name of this colorway is OMGG, who I got to meet and who is as nice in person as she is on her account and in social media, which, shocker. Um, so nice, such a lovely human. I got to meet a lot of people that I never thought I'd ever meet, and a lot of online people that I've known about for a long time but have never met in person. I'm not great at like messaging and talking to people on YouTube and leaving comments behind. I get oddly shy about it. The only person that I missed, and then looking back at my footage, realized I completely walked by her, but she was also much taller than I had expected. So it did not connect in my brain that I just walked by Tony Lipsy from TL Yarncraft. Um, she was one of the people I was looking around to. I wanted to just say hi and take a picture with her, but I never realized that I saw her. My daughter and I purchased some things at Sunrise Grove, which is a really wonderful wooden supplies booth. They have earrings, they have stitch markers. They had a set of Seattle specific stitch markers that had different um, icons aren't the right word. Different landmarks made laser cut and made into stitch markers. I got two pairs of earrings that I've had my eye on at her Etsy shop for a long time, but I couldn't tell if they were going to be too long for me, and they weren't, and they're super cute and I wear them all the time. Um and I got a needle minder because that was another thing that I've been wanting from them, and it was one of those things of I was making another purchase, and so I went ahead, and they had the one that I wanted, so I went ahead and I got that. Um, that was about it for the first day. After that, we kind of just hung out and we sat in the I don't really know what to call it. It wasn't outdoor, but it was outside of the convention marketplace hall. Um, a lot of people have shown pictures of it. We just hung out there for a little while, and I knit for a little. Actually, I crocheted for a little while because I brought along a crochet project. I didn't have any mindless knitting projects at the moment, so I brought a crochet project instead. And then that was the end of day one. The next day, we got up. So we ended up getting there a little after noon. My daughter went with me again, and then my friend Michelle came along, and she helped me record some things because she's much better at it than I am. Um, the plan for that day was to get yarn to make one specific thing. I had talked about it when I was talking about my yarn from M to the third, but I really want to make, ever since I saw it the first time, I've wanted to make the Babette blanket. And at the time when I first saw it, it called for koigu, which was a very expensive yarn for me at the time. It's harder to find now, and depending on what you're making with it, it still is an expensive yarn. It's on the higher end compared to yardage. Um, but it's kind of relative now because hand dyed indie yarns are probably more expensive than that now. But it requires, long story short, it requires a lot of different colors in it and different yardages of colors. Um, so I did some of the math on how much yardage, if I was going to get mini skeins, to maximize my colors, how much yardage I would need and how many of those mini skeins I would need. So most of the mini skeins end up being around 80 to 95 yards. So I figured I wrote it down, and I'm glad I did because I totally forgot what it was already. I would need 29 mini skeins if they were 80 yards each. And I tried to walk around and see colors that would go together. The blanket, I believe it was one of the co-designers was Calf Fassett, or it was inspired by Calf Fassett. Yeah, it was inspired by Calf Fassett, which if you haven't heard of him, these colors are very indicative of his work. He does a lot of color work. He does a lot of jewel tones and brights. So I really am drawn to those colorways. I really love jewel tones. I really love neons and brights. I also really like neutrals. So I walked around, and I was happy to have my friend there and my daughter there to help me kind of zone in on the colors that I wanted a little bit better. And so one of the booths I went to was 40 Winks Fibers, and this was partially a kit, but the bag broke. And so now I can't remember which ones were in the actual kit. But I got these beautiful neutrals. And I also went to ZZ, I can't remember if it's ZZ Fibers or ZZ Textiles. Let me see if it says it here. Yeah, ZZ Textiles. Okay, good job, me. And I got the last of this beautiful, like, jewel-toned rainbow. And I really love this one. That box is about to fall apart at this point. I don't know if I showed this one. This one was also from 40 Winks Fibers. So, and then I kind of, looking at this now, I was really in the mood for different versions of rainbows that were not primary colors, really. And oh no, you can't see it. At Rainier Rainbows, I'm gonna pause for a second and take this out of the bag because the crinkling is just too much. Okay, so I found the booth Rainier Rainbows, which was almost all, I think it was all mini skeins. I was really happy with the amount of booths that had just pre-packaged mini skeins. There was the Sorella booth where you could have, I didn't realize it at the time, but you could have your own color palette curated for you from their mini skeins. That was always so crowded that I kind of just passed it by. But the big kit that I got from Rainier Roses is the dark rainbow, and it's really beautiful. Like, this is probably my ultimate fall palette right there. And then I also got, let's see what this one's called, Neon Life. And I love all of these as well. So that is more than enough mini skeins for my blanket. And I then was trying to find, I needed three basically full skein amounts, and then I need one more color that I didn't end up getting at the festival because I probably have it at home um, for the main color. And I was looking for a fairly neutral color because the larger skein contrast colors that I got at Hazelnuts, which is a local store, but they have really limited hours and they're in downtown, so it's kind of hard for me to get to them. But I got these beautiful skeins from Hazelnuts. They are all in the artisan sock base. Let me double check. Yeah, they're all artisan sock. And this one is Seattle Mopop, which is the Museum of Music and Cinema in the area. It's a really cool museum. If you ever come to the Seattle area, I totally recommend going. This one is called Zing, and it's a really awesome, like slimy green yellow color. And then the last one is Electric Slide. And you can't, there's the window is bringing too much light in, and so you can't really see all the color variation in it, but it's really gorgeous. And so that was the majority of my purchases. I I got two bags that I had not intended on getting. I got one bag from that crafty little fox, that is neon with tigers on it, and it was gorgeous, and I have no regrets because that's one of my favorite bag makers. Um, and I got a tote bag that was actually a replacement tote bag because I used to work at a gym, and I brought my tote bag with like my lunchbox and my water bottle and my jacket to work, and I left my tote bag hanging in the staff space, and somebody stole it, and it was the sheep with heart eyes bag from French Co. And the person stole it right after French stopped making them and stopped selling those bags, and I could not find a replacement anywhere. And I forget the name of the farm. I think it was Wild Rose. They had some, and I snatched it up. I was real excited to get to replace that bag because it's one of my favorite bags. It was really cute. I have a lot of favorite bags. Um, but that was about it. After that, we were really, oh, I almost forgot the most important part of Flock Fiber Festival that everyone was obsessed with. Everyone. Um, the same place where I bought my sheep bag brought actual sheep. I took so much footage, so many pictures, so much video of these adorable, fluffy, little, adorable sheep that it's ridiculous. Um, I took one video of a minute straight, which doesn't sound like a lot until you start like recording and watching it. And you're like, oh wow, a minute is longer than you think of these adorable sheep. I have already put Flock Fiber Festival on my calendar for next year. Super excited about it. I am really happy that there's a big fiber festival on the West Coast now because I've had serious FOMO from watching everybody go to Rhinebeck and to Indian Tangled and all those really cool festivals. And now there's one that's here that's not a big brand name festival. And so I was really happy that Flock stayed more on the indie side. Like they had Q and they had businesses there, but nothing was too commercial. And it was really about meeting other knitters and just walking around and seeing the amazing stuff and supporting independent artists and makers. And so I'm very much looking forward to going again next year. I'm excited now that it's going to be at the Seattle Convention Center again. It was a really amazing space. It was really well planned and thought out. I really don't have any complaints about it. Uh, yeah, that's all. Um, the next episode will be things that I've been actually knitting and working on. Um, Maybe I'll have some in progress stuff of some of my flock purchases. I That's all for today. I'll see you next time. Bye.